and we're live on Facebook. And as I said, I'm going to do a little bag because I have been asked on a group on Facebook over the last couple of days. Somebody commented saying they couldn't find a tutorial for this little bag, and it's a really super simple bag. So I thought I would actually film this and pop it up on YouTube at the same time. So if you are watching on YouTube now, you're watching live, do post a comment so that I can see that you're there, and the same on Facebook as well. But I did Anne says retire, not for a long time. You're too young and you enjoy doing what you're doing. You're amazing. Bless you. Thanks very much. I wish I was too young. I've not actually got as long as you think before I retire, but we won't go there. So what we're going to do is I did suggest if you wanted to play along that you would need to grab yourself a couple of bits. All right, now this is a really simple bag. It's not got a handle, it's not got anything fancy in it. It is just two pieces of fabric. I've got two contrasting fabrics here, all right, and a piece of wadding. Lucy says retirement age is 67. So yeah, well, I've got less than 20 years to go now, so I'm closer to retirement age than I am to, school age. Anyway, I think I worked out the other day that I went to university 30 years ago. How did that happen? Anyway, Julianne, hello, darling. And Michelle says, hi, going to make my dinner, but might watch this later to make a bag. It's a really simple little bag. It's ideal if you can make it any size you want. Oh, hi, Gaynor. This is for you. This is the bag you wanted to see. So sometimes it's worth asking me, and if I can, I will film these little things and I will upload them because it's great fun. It's just sometimes trying to get the time in. But what we need is basically two pieces of fabric and a piece of wadding, all the same size, all square. Okay, and we can make it square, we can make it rectangular. We can play around with that. Katie said, I retired last July through redundancy, loving it. And Jackie says, enjoy these years. I get my state pension in June. Ooh, 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 ooh. Right, and Elaine says, good evening, intrigued by little bag. Yes, this is ideal if you want to send little gifts, perhaps give money or something like that. It looks like a little envelope, and it is super, super simple to do. So if you want to join along with me, then you can. I've suggested a 12-inch square, but you can make it bigger and smaller, and you would you'll end up with something smaller than this, but I can't give you exact measurements because it depends very much on whether you finish it off square or rectangular. Okay, and that will make a little bit more sense later. Catherine says, I'd like to find your wine coaster tutorial again. That should be in the hamper group. That should be in the hamper group somewhere, Catherine. I'll have to have a look and dig that out. Right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of my squares of fabric and I'm going to place it on top of the wadding, right side up. And then I've got my other piece and I place it right side down. And then I'm going to clip it all the way around, because when working with wadding, clips are easier to deal with than pins. Oh. So it would help if I lined it all up, but right arm is still playing silly beggars. Right, so I have my new clips. I'm loving these. I've been playing with these today. The new hemline gold range, but I love a clip anyway. So the rule about sizes is you just need to make sure that they're square. Brownie says, I'm having a sneaky peek. I'll watch properly later. I'd love you to make a square-sided pouch with the zip lid on the top. Pretty, please. Would be great if you could add that to your list. I would love you to forever. Bryony, bless you. I think, what was it you were saying about earlier today? Monkey. Actually, Monkey does have a head. Don't tell Rachel though. Actually, let's just do that. Monkey does have a head, but don't tell Rachel because she'll expect the body to arrive at the same time. So put him back. Right, I should hide that. So yes, I do get lectured or nagged by people. Oh, I just saw Judy then go gold. As Alan loves my new fabric, thank you. Marion says, evening Sarah, lovely to see you. Bryony says that's adorable. It's only a head at the moment. It's a discombobulated head, which is a little bit disconcerting. And Elaine says, are you on CNC at the weekend? Yes, I am. I'm on at 7:30 a.m. and 7:30 p.m. And I've got a double at the end of the day. The one at the end of the day is a double and it's a sewing machine show. So I'm looking forward to that. Right, so we have clipped everything together. The next thing that we want to be working with is a walking foot, if you have one. If you don't have one, it's not a huge deal. Okay, it's not a big issue. It just makes it easier if you have. So here's my walking foot with my lovely new machine. Oh, me and my machine live in a new happy place. So I'm just going to lift up the foot controller. I'm going to unscrew, there we go, unscrew the existing foot, pop it away, don't want to lose it. And then I've got my walking foot, okay? And this is your walking foot. And this has got feed dogs on the top here that match up with the feed dogs on the bottom of your machine. Bernadette says, I'm retiring in July. Can't wait. More time for sewing and watching Create and Craft. Julie says, are you on your embroidery machine? Yes, this is my new present to myself. You can see me stroking it there. This is the NV2650D, which is the sewing and embroidery machine. I have used it for a bit of embroidery, but I'm loving the sewing machine. Anyway, this is the walking foot, and basically the way a walking foot works is as your needle goes up and down, you've got yes, Catherine, I have got them out. Got it out. The 2650, that's what she's saying. You've got 2650 out. Yeah, as this moves up and down, you can see these feed dogs, and they match up with these feed dogs at the bottom and pull everything together. All right, you'll often see, like on Sewing Bee, they're sewing stretch fabrics with it too, because it just holds everything together. But we're working with layers here, and we don't really want them to drift too much. So let's just give that a twizzle. All right, and now I'm going to have a look at my needle. I'm going to do just a straight stitch, but I'm going to move my needle over to the right a little bit. So I'm not working with 1/4 inch precisely. Julie says I keep stroking my Stella and telling how much I love it. Me too. Christine's got one. How large is the throat? That's a good question, actually, because I do usually know stuff like that. It's about yay big. So it's actually 8 inches. I just look because there's a tape measure on the front. So yes, it's got an 8-inch throat on it, which allows it to do relatively large embroideries as well. But I don't need to worry too much about an exact seam allowance. I just need it to be consistent. All right. So I don't know why I took that clip out. Let's put that back in. And what we're going to do is we're going to sew with a consistent seam allowance all the way round, but I'm going to leave a gap for turning. All right. So I'm going to do a back stitch or a stop stitch, depending on what your machine does. We're going to stick our hand through that hole. So we do want it to be quite sturdy. And I'm going to come to the end. And Helen says, which foot do I need for the the FS250 machine? Okay, the two, if you're talking about the walking foot, then just a standard Brother walking foot, the one that you get for free with the 180. I got this one because I needed extras because I have machines in different places, off Amazon. But you can also go to the Brother Support website and they will send you little start again. If you go to the Brother Support website, there is an accessories list for your machines. So on there, it will tell you all of the codes for various bits and pieces. And you will find the codes in there for your walking feet, for extra feet, you know, all of those things, extra bobbins and things like that. The codes will all be there, and then it's much easier to Google it. So Bryony says you could do things like this between your block of the month to break them up. I love the creative ideas you give us. Well, as you know, Bryony, the current block of the month finishes in October, but I'm going to relaunch it, and we're going to be doing. It's still going to be called a block of the month, but there will be some shorter quilt projects, you know, like 4 months. And then there'll be longer ones, and then, as I said, we may break it up with some bits in between. So keep an eye out, because I'll start publicising about that. I'm having a new website. I'm looking at new website options at the moment. So by the time we get to October, I'll be telling you about those things, about the plan for the block of the month. But month 5 is just about to go out for the block of the month, obviously, and it's 10 months. So that will mean we are halfway through. So I'm just carrying on sewing a little bit. Stop before I get to the end. Pivot and rotate. My FS80 wouldn't work with my walking foot, says Anne. Oh, that's a surprise. Are you putting it on correctly? I mean, have you got it so that this goes over? Because actually I've done it before now. Even though I know how to put it on, I've not paid attention. And I've just put it on top of that needle. And it goes up, but it doesn't go down again, so it won't move. That might be something. That might be an issue with it. Just make sure it is fitted properly. Also, they do, if you've had it for a long time, they do break down. Especially as walking feet, if you sew them, I talk about a walking foot, not a running foot, because it's got a lot of moving parts in there, and if you do everything really quickly, you can just slowly jingle it apart, and we obviously don't want to do that, but you can slowly destroy them, and these bits can pop off, and you know, they don't last forever, which I was quite surprised about. But then, to be fair, the first time I bought a brand new car, and then I found out after a year I had to replace the tyres, I was equally horrified, because I just assumed the tyres would last forever. Obviously they don't. So Rosemary said, oh, check you have it on properly. And Catherine says, Brother walking feet on Amazon are about a tenner. So there we go, because you don't have to go with a branded one. I mean, the single ones are usually a lot more expensive, but generally, you know, yeah, a walking foot is a walking foot. One thing you do need to be aware of is the aperture size at the front of your foot. Now, I don't want to take that off because I've just put it on, but many of the machines and the Brother machines, they have the aperture where the needle goes into. The needle plate is 7 millimeters wide. Okay, if you then put a foot on it where the aperture is only 5 millimeters wide, but some of your decorative stitches go up to 7 millimeters wide, it means that your needle can end up bumping into the edge of your foot. So you do just want to keep an eye on that. Okay. Anne says, not really used it before because I use my silver machine with a walking foot. I usually use the Brother for piecing. There you go. And Sue says, I have a walking foot but never been brave enough to use it. Well, I hope you will now. Now you just have a look at, you know, this project. It's super simple. So let's come back to here anyway. So I've sewn all the way around and I have left a hole in the edge, in the middle, big enough to get my hand in. All right, and we're going to put your hands in between the two. Don't go there and there. We want to go between those two fabrics that we put right sides together. So I'm going to place my hands inside this one here, and I'm just going to fold the wadding into sort of a little cross like that, a little pleat, because that makes it easier to turn it through and keep it square. Okay, you see that? I'll show you again. Let's just see if I can make it focus a little better. There we go. So put your finger into the corner and then fold the wadding so that it's square. All right, so we've got almost like a nursemaid's corner. Hold onto it with your thumb and just push it through. This means that we are not trimming anywhere and we're getting nice sharp points. Because if you do cut at a diagonal, there's a danger that you're going to cut through your threads. And you also weaken that edge. In this case, it's not really a big deal, but so fold it and fold it so that, you know, you've got your stitch line is here and you actually just tuck the wadding into that same stitch line and push it through. You see we're getting nice square edges on there. And then I'm going to do the same with the fourth one. Right. And pop it all the way through. Gaynor says, I find you get a neater, more pointy corners that way. You certainly do. So I'm going to place this right side. I'm going to place it flat on my mat. All right. Right, so now I'm just going to tuck in this end bit here. Now, it's quite useful if you have been more generous than a quarter of an inch when you were sewing this together, because what we're going to do is we're going to top stitch all the way around and then catch this folded edge here. Diane says, too late, I cut the corners. It's fine. You can definitely cut the corners if you want to. But if you've gone with a quarter of an inch, when you sew this all the way around, as long as you sew less than a quarter of an inch, you will catch that edge and close it all in one go. Okay. And as I said, it's not that it needs to be a specific measurement, it just needs to be consistent because we want it to remain square. So I'm just going to pop my clips. Catherine says, I looked after my 7-year-old granddaughter last Saturday and we made her dollar skirt. She'd never used a sewing machine before and she loved it and wants to do more soon. Well, that's fantastic. There we go. You know, that's how memories are made. You can give that a quick press if you want to. I'm not going to, but I've got two lovely contrasting fabrics there. Helen says, I've made 2 quilts and learnt in rows. After buying your book, I've learnt it's a block and I've never actually quilted yet. Well, you see, there's also a technique called sew a row, which is an equally good. In fact, I'm going to do one of the block of the month that I've got planned for next year is going to be a sew a row. So you do a row at a time and the rows are different. You can do a block of the month where the blocks are different. You know, it's just a different way of doing it, Helen. So it's up to you which one you do. I quite like the quilt as you go technique as well, so that you can quilt just a block. So you don't have to fight. My first quilt was a double bed quilt. It was quite large, and then I only had a tiny little machine. It was a bit of a struggle to quilt, so I go for a quilt as you go technique now. So that's worth googling. That is worth googling. Right, so let's come back to the machine, and now I'm going to go and I'm going to move slightly to the left now so that I've got a scant quarter of an inch, because I want to catch all the way. If I go a quarter of an inch again, I won't catch the inside there. So Leslie says, my 7-year-old grandson is enjoying using my sewing machine too. He's made a bandana and a cushion and is now making a Harry Potter coat. And Anne says she might be putting her walking foot on wrong. That's possible. That's a possibility. Right, so I'm just top stitching now. Again, this is a walking foot, not a running foot. Take it nice and slowly. So actually what we've made at the moment is like a placemat. You know, sewing doesn't have to be, you know, the first time you sew, it doesn't have to be a wedding dress. So you can just make something nice and simple. And I'm coming up to that corner. Now there's a lot of bulk there. So turn and start off gently. Now when you're going into a lot of bulk like this, oh, this one, it was okay this time, but sometimes there's a little white bit of at the back here that helps you move through the machine. If you've got a lot of bulk along that edge, sometimes it catches, and when you do a first couple of stitches and then it won't move. So if you just lift up like that and drop it down again, you should be okay. I did squares, says Helen. I did squares thinking I'm quilting when apparently I was stitching in the ditch. Well, stitching the ditch is a form of quilting. Technically, sewing your squares together is patchwork. Quilting is the process of sewing 3 layers together. So you start off with your patchwork, and then you do the quilting, and it's only at that point which it becomes a quilt. But I wouldn't worry too much there, Helen. We're not the quilt police here. I'm not going to tell you that what somebody's told you is wrong, because there's so many different interpretations of things, and different ways of doing things, and we all have our own. So you see, that didn't catch that time either. I've got a really nice machine. It's not doing it. I want it to go wrong, just so I can show you. But so take it slowly. Remember, walking foot, not a running foot. Helen says, I'm very excited because I'm actually doing on my next go. Oh, Anne says, my walking foot has dropped to pieces. Yes, they do. They do slowly over time. You know, these bits at the front here can bend, plastic perishes, and if you sew with it a lot, you can hear it. When you've got a walking foot, it's noisier because it's got more moving parts, and moving parts can all wear out. Right, so let's do this. I think I'm coming down the last side. Actually, I've gone too far over, so I'm just going to smidge back a smidge. Now, when I'm sewing something like this, excuse me, I just saw Audrey's comment there. She said, I was always bothered by the quilt police. Yes, me too. My first quilt teacher had a very definite way of doing things, and her way was the only way. So, yeah. And Sue says, oh, how I've missed your go live sewing and general chit chat. And Pam says, what machine have you got? Looks fabulous. It's the Brother 2650D Disney machine, because it's a sewing and embroidery machine. It's got the Disney on it. But as I said, I'm coming down to this last corner here, and you can't really tell, but I started just there. All right, I didn't start on the corner. The reason why you don't want to start on the corner is you can find when you get to it that you end up with a pleat in it because things have drifted and moved. If you start part way along one side, you can sew to the corner and then turn it and kind of ease it so that everything is flat. Right, and then we're just going to turn it. I'll do a little back stitch and then come back here. Anne says, I can see us all ringing CNC and buying that machine. I've missed Sarah as well for the chit chat. Yeah, sorry, I hurt myself, and it's not, I've not been able to work as much as I normally would, and then I still had to do stuff, and it took 3 times as long. So it's been quite a stressful couple of months. But hey ho, and I thought, you know what, I'm really missing my go lives. So hopefully I'll do a few more. I am going to do another one on Monday, but the Monday one is going to be a sale. So 6 o'clock on Monday, because I've got a lot of stuff in here, and I'm hopefully moving in 6 weeks to my new premises, and I need to empty some space. Excuse me, laughing and coughing at the same time. Sam says, do you ever use your Brother 400? Yes, I do. That's currently at home. That is currently at home, Sam. So this one is here in my studio, and the other one's at home. So, yes. And Catherine says, wait till you have it on offer. Yes, definitely. Jackie says, I like the way the machine handled the bulky corners. My 130 doesn't do bulky. Oh, bless you. Now, we're going to turn this. Let me just go back to here. Right. So now what we have is we have a placemat. All right. And Catherine says, my credit card has just cringed. What we're going to do is we're going to turn it into a bag. Right. So we're actually going to be deciding which one of these gorgeous fabrics we want to be the inside of the bag. I would suggest that you watch me before you make a decision, okay, because I will show you what it's going to actually look like. So first of all, I am folding it in half diagonally, and what you're going to have then is the fabric that's on the outside is going to be the outside of the bag, but the fabric on the inside is going to be like the lid as well. So it's kind of, you decide which way round you want to do it. Stephen Q says, are you going to finish your Galaxian quilt for Paul? Yeah, I was feeling a bit guilty about that the other day after somebody showed theirs on Create and Craft, and I thought, oh, I'm supposed to be finishing Paul's. I think I put it away about 3 years ago and I still haven't done it. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're just going to finish off the bag, and to do that, as I said, we fold it in half, and we are going to sew these sides here. So we still need the walking foot. The further apart you sew it, the more like a pencil case it becomes, but then the top can become quite sort of flappy. So I would go for something that's almost square. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure in, let's say 5 inches from the end here. All right, and I'm just going to use my mat to make sure that I keep my pins. You can mark this as well. It's just I haven't got a dissolvable marker handy at the moment. So I'm going to paste that. I'm just using this to mark a straight line. All right, so I've just used my pins there to mark a straight line. And then if I do the same the other side and find my 5-inch line, which is there, another pin. So I love the sewing bee discussions. Oh, hang on, it's just moved up there. I just saw somebody say they love the sewing bee discussions with me and Alistair's. I've lost the comment now. I don't know who said that, but yes, we've been having lots of fun with that. We film them on a Thursday morning, and we keep trying to keep it short, and we never manage it. So yeah, we're watching Sewing Bee and then giving our opinions. It's like, who are we to have opinions? But hang on, what did I measure that at? Another way you can do it is, once you've done one side, is fold it like this. That's probably easier. So once we've folded there we go. Yeah, it's on their Facebook page. I think it went up today, and it's me and Alistair and Samantha from Just Bold Fabrics, giving you our wealth of knowledge. Right, I've been hoovering in here today and I think there's dust everywhere. What you do want to try and make sure, and I'm just going to get a ruler to do this, is that where we start and stop is the same point on both sides. All right. So, yes, Helen, how did nobody mention her necklace? Because that was the first thing I saw. I just went, oh my word, look at that necklace. So, but nobody said anything about it. They probably did. Right. I'm just going to give myself an exact point at both sides. So you can mark it with a removable pen. But what we're going to do is we're going to sew from there to there. Sarah Jane says, love the fabric, Sarah. I have quarter bundles of these, actually. If you're interested, they're £9. It's called Tropical Bohemian, and they're really fabulous. So if you're interested, just direct message me after this, and I can. They'll be on my sale as well on Monday too. So right, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sew from here down to here. Yes, Catherine, it was hand sanitizers, that it was empty ones that she'd got from the crew, and she filled it with coloured paints, and then the carabiners that hold them on, because I've got one in my handbag. So I'm going to sew from here. I'm going to do a back stitch to secure, and then sew down that line that I've marked with my pins. So there we go, back to the machine. And if you do watch those things that we're doing about the sewing bee, Alistair is just hilarious. I have to say, I nearly lost my mind on Thursday's one. He just made me laugh so hard. I thought, I'm going to corpse. And I really struggled to contain myself. It was hilarious. He is a very funny man. Right, so there we go. That's one of them. All right, so you can see just there how I've sewn down here. And then I'm going to do the same the other side. And now I'm sewing through a lot of layers now, which is why you need that good old walking foot on there. Helen says, I thought all of you were funny. Thank you. Right. So this is the final stage. At the moment it looks a little odd, but this is pretty much now we turn it into our bag. So the first thing we're going to do is fold this end like that. All right. And fold this end over. Now, if you want to, you can pop a couple of stitches in here to secure it. It does also make some quite useful little pockets. And then this top one comes down. Okay, so you've got, it does need a good press. And also, if you're making them small, you don't necessarily want to put wadding in it, because the smaller ones can get really quite tricky. And then Gaynor says, yay, remember now. Yeah, so you could put a couple of stitches in here and here to make those into pockets, you know. So, oh, got quite a bit of bulk in there. Let's just smooth that out. You see, there you go, both sides. And then what you can do is you can bring it down like that, and you can hardly see that outer fabric at all, but you could do a little snap, sorry, do a little stitch there, and then you've got a pocket that opens like this. Or what I like to do is bring that over the top and then sew those two together. Sorry, not sew those two together, sew that one onto there and put your snap between the two. So then you get to see a bit more of the bag, of the pattern. So Elaine, yes, they would be hand stitches and you don't need many, but you're going through a lot of bulk. Here, she said, would they be hand stitches? Yeah, just to hold this down. So a couple of stitches there onto the inside. You wouldn't see it. But the bag changes depending on where you stitch it. So for example, if you stitched it like that, that would make it very long and thin, and then you've got this that brings it down to here. But the closer you sew that, the sort of you end up almost with a glasses case, and this becomes it becomes tall and thin. And as I said, you can do it in any size you like. You just need to have 3 squares, one for the inner, one for the outer, and one for your wadding. But for small ones, as I said, I would perhaps go with like a light a sewing interface, or actually no interface at all. Could you use those plastic snaps? Oh yes, you so could. And you could also use, I'm just trying to look behind me at the moment because somewhere I have a set of hemline ones, these snaps, and I just happened under my laptop to have a hammer. Now, I feel that I should explain this. It's not just because I happen to have a hammer on my desk. It's because I was demoing something the other day which used the snaps for the hamper group. I have a Facebook group for my quarterly hamper subscriptions, and one of the projects was using, I'm just looking for it now, I've tidied up, but I had to remember to bring a hammer in. So what you would do with that is you have a male and a female with your pieces. Elaine says, hammer time. Yes, so if that was sewn down, because you could actually put a popper there and a popper there, you know, and have that open if you want to. But if that was stitched down like that, you would pop your one piece onto here. I would keep it away from this very edge here because there's a lot of bulk in there. So you don't want to try and get through your hammer through all of that. But let's see if we can do this. I hadn't planned this, but with your pieces, when you get these are by hemline. Hang on, let's pop that in roughly where I want it. You get a tool, right? So I'm just going to push down with that tool because that helps get the teeth to come through your fabric. Audrey says, I thought it was the beginning. If I had a hammer, I'd hammer in the morning. Yes, I remember that as well. So now I'm going to get, we have a female and a male for obvious reasons. So I'm going to pop the male piece on top of that. I'm going to take my tool and I'm going to watch my fingers. There we go, and I whacked it. So, get that to, come on, there we go. So I've whacked it, hit it with a hammer, and that has put my popper through there. So I'm going to give that another go because that feels a little loose. Right. And then what I would do is, if this is stitched down, well, imagine it's stitched down. That would come over. So then I have a female piece and I need to line up where I want that female piece to be. So you will have to, you'll actually have to sew this down after you've done the poppers. Right, so again, I just want to make sure that I've got, you know, the outsides on the outsides and the insides on the insides. It's really annoying to try and take this off once you've done it if you do it the wrong way around. So just find those teeth and put them through. So you can basically push that bit of the tool in. Then we've got our female piece, so get it the right way up, and that goes on there. Just got to place it correctly, which is easier to do when you're trying to make sure you've not got your head in the way of the camera. Right, so whack it. Oh bless, Elaine says my cat has just run to the door. She thinks someone has knocked on the door. Come in. And right, so you see we've got the other one there. Then stitch that down, and then that will snap, she says, famous last words. That will snap into there, and you've made a little pouch. Okay, so you don't have to do the little snap like I've just done, and you can get plastic snaps, you can get metal ones, you could do a buttonhole, you could have it so that they snap back and forth like this, but it's just a really simple little bag. It's quite sweet, it's simple to make, it doesn't take very long, and you know, if you give people Christmas money or birthday money, it's quite nice to have something to put in it. So there we go, that's the little finished project. There we go, and here we are, here's our little finished bag. So it does still need a stitch there, because at the moment I've just got a flappy a flappy flap, but here we are. So I just wanted to show you how you could work a square. So as I said, make it any size you like. Now the way I've just made it, I made this from a 12-inch square, and my particular bag is now 5 inches by 6.5. So it kind of shrinks this a little bit. Suzanne says not falling off like the ladies on the sewing bee last week. Yeah, that was Loratu, wasn't it? I did feel for her because she was making a hole in the fabric as well. Whereas these, you know, there's no hole in that. But then this week they struggled with buttonholes. so who absolutely knows? But as I said, I'm going to try and get a few more of these in over the next few weeks. Now I can work out how I can use my software again, which is always a bonus. I use something called Restream, which allows me to do this to Facebook and YouTube at the same time without too much stress, because, you know, you don't need more stress in your life, do you? But thank you very much for joining me again. So I'm going to first of all say goodbye to YouTube. So thank you, and thank you for your comments. I really appreciate them, and I can see there are a few of you still on there watching. If you do make the bag, I would love it if you can comment on the channel, on my this YouTube post, or even better, share your bag on Facebook and tag me, Sarah Payne Quilter, on Facebook, because I'm dead nosy and like to see what people have made. So thank you, YouTube, for joining me, and I'll see you soon. Bye bye.